In a world teetering on the edge of chaos, where cities hummed with corruption and greed, one man chose a different path. On the outskirts, where the din of the city faded into the whisper of the wind, Noah tended his garden. His hands, stained with the honest earth, cultivated life in a world obsessed with fleeting pleasures. People would pass by, their fine clothes a stark contrast to his simple tunic. They'd point and laugh. "Look at the old fool," they'd sneer, "playing in the dirt while the world moves on." But Noah found peace among his vines and fig trees, a quiet joy they couldn't comprehend. He saw the world not as a marketplace for ambition, but as a garden entrusted to his care, a garden wilting under the heat of human wickedness. One night, as the city slept its restless sleep, Noah's slumber was broken by a vision. It wasn't a gentle dream, but a terrifying torrent of images. He saw a stampede, not of men, but of every creature imaginable: lions running alongside lambs, wolves with deer, serpents slithering beside mice. Their eyes were wide with a primal fear. Then the water came. It started as a trickle, then a stream, then a raging flood that swallowed the ground, climbed the hills, and devoured the very mountains. The sky wept without end. Above the roar of the deluge a voice echoed, a sound that was both thunder and a whisper, and it called his name, Noah. He awoke with a gasp, his heart pounding against his ribs, the phantom chill of the floodwaters still clinging to his skin. The dream haunted his waking hours. The laughter from the city seemed distant, drowned out by the memory of the rushing water. He walked through his garden, the familiar scent of damp earth now carrying a note of foreboding. As a gentle rain began to fall, a wind rustled the leaves, and in that sound the voice from his dream returned. It wasn't a shout from the heavens, but a presence that permeated the very air he breathed. "The end of all flesh is before me," the voice whispered on the wind and in the patter of the rain, "for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth." The message was devastating, a sentence passed on the world he knew. And yet, in its finality, there was a strange, terrifying clarity. The world's sickness had a diagnosis, and a cure was coming. His face pale, his hands trembling, Noah sought out his wife, Naamah. She was his anchor, the bedrock of his life. He found her by the hearth, the warm glow of the fire, a stark contrast to the cold dread in his soul. He told her everything, the mockery, the dream, the voice in the wind. He watched her face, searching for disbelief, for dismissal. But Naamah saw the truth in his haunted eyes. She saw the weight of a divine burden settling on her husband's shoulders. A tremor of fear ran through her, shaking her to her core, but her faith in him and in the God he served was unwavering. She took his hands in hers. "I believe you," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. In that moment they were no longer just a husband and wife, but partners in a destiny too immense to fully comprehend. The conversation with their sons was not so simple. Shem, ever the dutiful son, listened with a furrowed brow, his mind trying to grasp the scale of the warning. Japheth, thoughtful and quiet, absorbed the news with a somber gravity. But Ham resisted. A flood to destroy the world? He scoffed, a rebellious spark in his eyes. "Father, you've spent too much time in the sun. It's a dream, nothing more." His wife, Mara, stood beside him, her arms crossed. She laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "An ark? Are we to become shipbuilders now? The whole city will think we've lost our minds. The family, once a unit of peace, was now a fractured council, debating a future that seemed impossible. The seeds of division were sown right there by their own hearth. Doubt was a heavy cloak, and the ridicule from his own family stung more than any stranger's jibe. Noah retreated into the quiet of the fields, his heart a storm of confusion and fear. He pleaded for a sign, for guidance, for anything to anchor his wavering resolve. He fell to his knees, the damp earth cold beneath him. "What am I to do?" He cried out to the empty sky, and the voice answered not with comfort, but with a command. It was a blueprint spoken into his mind, detailed and precise, a vision of salvation made of timber and pitch. "Build an ark of gopher wood," the voice instructed. "Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high." The instructions were overwhelming. The dimensions were colossal, a vessel larger than anything ever built. He was a gardener, a man of soil, not a shipwright, a man of timber. How could he possibly construct such a thing? Where would he get the wood? Who would help him? The task seemed insurmountable, a mountain of impossibility. But with the instructions came a renewed sense of purpose. This was not a suggestion. It was a divine commission. The ridicule, the doubt, the fear, it all had to be set aside. A great flood was coming, and he, Noah, had been chosen not just to survive it, but to build the very vessel of survival. The path forward was no longer shrouded in dreams and whispers. It was laid out in cubits and gopher wood. His work was about to begin. Noah returned to his family, the blueprint for the ark etched into his mind. The debate was over. He looked at Nama, at his sons, at Mara. "We begin tomorrow," he announced, his voice ringing with an authority they had never heard before. There was no room for argument. He explained the design, the colossal scale, the sheer audacity of the project. He described the need for gopher wood, for pitch, for a workforce of just 8 people, to build a floating sanctuary. Ham and Mara exchanged skeptical glances, but the unshakable conviction in Noah's eyes silenced their protests for now. The weight of the world's fate had fallen upon their small family. In the morning the first axe would fall, and each strike would be an act of faith against a rising tide of disbelief. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Noah stood before a stand of tall gopher trees. The air was still, and the city behind him was just beginning to stir. He held an axe in his hands, its weight both a burden and a promise. This was the first step. Every swing, every splinter of wood would be a testament to his obedience. He knew the mockery would intensify. He knew his family would be tested. But he also knew the sound of the coming waters. With a deep breath he lifted the axe high. The world saw a fool about to chop down a perfectly good tree. But Noah saw the first plank of salvation. He brought the axe down, and the sound echoed through the quiet morning, the sound of hope, the sound of a promise being kept, the sound of the ark beginning. The first rays of dawn spill over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. But here, at the edge of the city, a different kind of creation is taking shape. Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, begin their day's work. The sheer scale of the ark is breathtaking, a wooden leviathan rising from the earth. Its ribs curve towards the sky, a promise and a warning carved from gopher wood. From the city, the sound of laughter drifts on the morning breeze, sharp and mocking. As the sun climbs higher, A crowd gathers. They lean against fences, point and jeer. "Look at the old fool," one shouts, "building a ship in the middle of a desert." Another chimes in, "Has the sun finally cooked his brain?" Children, emboldened by their parents' scorn, begin to throw small stones that clatter harmlessly against the massive hull. Noah doesn't flinch. His hammer falls in a steady, rhythmic beat, a counterpoint to their derision. Each strike is a prayer, each plank a testament to his unwavering conviction. But not all observers are human. In the opulent halls of the city, shadowy figures the watchers move unseen. Their forms are imposing, their presence a cold weight in the air. They whisper into the ears of the city's leaders, planting seeds of doubt and paranoia. "He builds for a flood," they hiss. "A flood in a land that has never seen more than a morning mist. What does this man, this simple boat builder, know that you, the masters of this world, do not?" The leaders, their pride pricked, scoff outwardly, but a sliver of unease takes root in their hearts. The constant ridicule begins to erode the resolve of Noah's sons. Shem, the eldest, remains steadfast, his loyalty to his father as solid as the timbers he hews. His hammer swings in sync with Noah's, a mirror of his father's faith. But Ham is a different story. His face is a mask of bitterness. "Father," he says, his voice low and resentful, "they laugh at us. Every day they mock your name and ours. For what? A vision? A voice in your head?" Japheth, the youngest, is torn. He works diligently, but his eyes often stray towards the city, a flicker of curiosity and longing in his gaze. He sees the life they've left behind, the community that now scorns them, and wonders if his father's path is truly the only one. While the men toil under the hot sun, a different kind of confrontation unfolds in the shade of their tents. Naamah, Noah's wife, finds Mara, the wife of a city elder and a friend from a time before the great project began. Naamah's voice is gentle but firm, her eyes filled with a sorrowful urgency. "Mara, you must listen," she pleads. "The world you know is poised on the brink of an abyss. The laughter from the city will turn to screams. There is a reckoning coming, a cleansing. It is not born of anger but of a broken heart. There is still time, but not much." Mara looks at her, her expression a mixture of pity and disbelief. "Naamah," she replies softly, "you have been out in the sun too long. Come back to the city. Forget this madness." Then something changes. It starts subtly. A pair of desert foxes, their coats the color of sand, approach the ark and disappear inside. Then a lone wolf, then its mate. Soon the trickle becomes a steady stream. Birds of every color wheel in the sky, not in chaotic flocks, but in organized lines, spiraling down towards the ark's high windows. Lizards and serpents slither from the rocks. From the distant hills the shapes of larger creatures appear, gazelles, lions, bears, moving with a strange unified purpose. The people in the city fall silent. Their mockery falters, replaced by a growing unease. The laughter dies in their throats. The sight is unnatural, an ordered procession of the wild, a silent migration to this wooden mountain. They stare, their minds struggling to comprehend what their eyes are seeing. The stones cease to fly, the jeers turn to whispers. What is this? They ask each other, fear creeping into their voices. What sorcery is the old man practicing? For Noah, the arrival of the animals is a profound affirmation. He watches them come, two by two, and a deep, quiet joy fills his heart. The voice he heard was real. The promise was true. His weariness seems to melt away, replaced by a surge of renewed purpose. He works with a fervor that amazes even his sons. His faith is no longer just a belief. It is a tangible reality, confirmed by the silent, orderly parade of creation seeking refuge in his work. He looks at his family, at the growing menagerie, at the sky above, and his resolve hardens into something unbreakable. The hammering continues, faster now, a desperate, hopeful rhythm against the encroaching silence of a world holding its breath. The final planks are being laid. The final preparations are being made. The first drops of rain are not far away. A vessel of salvation in a world teetering on the brink of chaos. His family was fractured, his vision mocked, and the weight of the world rested on his weary shoulders. Now things are about to get even more intense. As Noah stands before the colossal, skeletal frame of the ark, a shadow falls over him. It's not from a cloud, but from the looming figures of the watchers. These fallen angels, encased in stone and earth, have been his silent guardians, his protectors. But their patience is wearing thin. One of them, a hulking giant named Og, steps forward, his voice like the grinding of tectonic plates. "You call yourself chosen, Noah?" He rumbles, his glowing eyes fixing on the lone man. He gestures around at the empty, silent clearing. "Then why are you alone? Why has your Creator abandoned you to this fool's errand?" The question hangs in the air, heavy and sharp. Noah feels the sting of truth in the watcher's words. His own sons doubt him, the villagers mock him, and even his wife, Nami, struggles to keep her faith. He is utterly and completely isolated in his mission. He looks up at the massive, impassive face of the watcher, and can only offer a quiet, resolute reply. "I am not alone. He is with me." But the doubt, once planted, begins to take root. Was this all a grand delusion? Was he just a madman building a wooden monstrosity in the middle of a desert? The watchers turn and retreat into the forest, leaving Noah to grapple with a crisis of faith that is perhaps more dangerous than any coming flood. Just as the silence threatens to swallow him whole, a new sound breaks the stillness. It starts as a faint rustle, a distant tremor. Then it grows. Over the rise of a nearby hill, a line appears, not of men, but of creatures. First, the snakes slithering across the dusty ground in a silent, coordinated river of scales. They move with an unnatural purpose, heading directly for the ark. The few onlookers who had gathered to mock Noah fall silent, their jaws slack with disbelief. Then come the insects, a shimmering, buzzing cloud of 1,000,000 wings, followed by lizards and amphibians of every shape and color, all marching in an orderly procession. The people are stunned. What is this? Some kind of trick? One man shouts, trying to reclaim his bravado. "He's using smoke and mirrors. He's a sorcerer," another cries. But their explanations ring hollow, even to their own ears. The sheer scale of it is impossible to fake. A parade of life, an impossible migration, is converging on this single point on the globe. And then the larger animals appear. Pairs of deer, bears, wolves, great cats with eyes like amber, all moving peacefully, side by side, predator and prey united in a silent, sacred truce. They flow towards the ramp of the ark, their destination clear. The people can only stand and stare, their mockery turning to a profound, unsettling awe. Something is happening, something real and terrifying. Back at the family tent, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Ham, Noah's second son, is pacing frantically. "I can't do this," he mutters, his voice tight with panic. "Father is insane? Look at this madness." He gestures towards the unending stream of animals. Standing with him is Mara, the young woman he had found and saved, a refugee from the world of men. She looks at him, her eyes hard. "He's right," she says, her voice a low, urgent whisper. "Noah is delusional. This is not salvation, Ham. It's a cage, a tomb." She takes his hands, her grip surprisingly strong. "Think about it," she pleads. "What life is there for us on that boat? Trapped with them, with his madness. Out there," she gestures to the world beyond, "there is still life. There are cities, people. We can escape. We can be free. We don't have to die with them." Her words are like a poison perfectly tailored to Ham's own fears and desires. He looks from her desperate face to the imposing structure of the ark. He loves his family. But Mara's logic is seductive. Is she right? Is he about to board a floating prison, a vessel captained by a madman sailing toward certain doom? The choice before him is tearing him apart. Abandon his family and his father's vision for a chance at freedom, or chain himself to what could be the greatest folly in history. While Ham wrestles with his loyalties, his brothers, Shem and Japheth, have made their choice. Spurred on by the undeniable miracle of the animal's arrival, their faith, once wavering, is now solidified. They work with a desperate, focused energy they've never possessed before. Shem, the practical one, the builder, directs the construction of pens and enclosures within the vast belly of the ark. He measures, he saws, he hammers, his movements precise and efficient, creating a space for every creature. Japheth, the youngest, works alongside him, his youthful strength a vital asset. They haul massive bags of grain, dried fruits, and bundles of hay, creating stockpiles of food to last them through the coming ordeal. They are a whirlwind of activity, their actions a stark contrast to Ham's paralysis and the world's disbelief. With the help of the Watchers, who have returned now, their purpose seemingly renewed by the animal's arrival, they begin to seal the great ship. They work their way up from the lower levels, methodically applying thick layers of pitch to the gaps between the gopher wood planks, ensuring every seam is watertight. Deck by deck, they seal themselves in, the sounds of the outside world growing more and more muffled. Each stroke of the brush, each pound of the hammer is an act of faith, a final commitment to their father's vision. They are no longer just building a boat. They are closing the door on the old world and entrusting their lives entirely to the new one. As the final planks are being sealed and the last of the animals are guided aboard, Noah stands on the top deck of the ark. The sky above is a strange, bruised purple, and the air is unnaturally still, holding its breath. He closes his eyes one last time, seeking a sign, a confirmation from his Creator. And he gets one. The vision that floods his mind is more vivid and more terrifying than any before. He's no longer on the ark, but standing atop the highest peak of a mountain range. He looks down, and the world is gone. There are no trees, no valleys, no cities. There is only water, a churning, violent, endless ocean where the land used to be. And then he sees it, a shadow on the horizon, a line of white that grows and grows with impossible speed. It's not a wave. It's a moving wall of water, a liquid mountain, so tall it scrapes the dark, angry clouds. He watches in abject horror as this colossal tidal wave, a force of unimaginable power, swallows the very mountains he stands on, consuming them as if they were pebbles. The sheer, apocalyptic scale of the destruction is absolute. The vision shatters, and Noah stumbles back, gasping for air, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looks at his family, at the ark, at the sliver of sky still visible through the closing hatch. Now he understands. It's not just a flood. It's the end of everything, a complete and total reset. And he and his family are about to be the sole witnesses. The last of the supplies are piled by the gangway, waiting. But Ham, he just stands there, arms crossed, staring out at the distant lights of the city. He won't help. He won't even look at us. Ham, I say, my voice rough with exhaustion and something else, pleading. Son, we have to finish. He shakes his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. Finish what, Father? Finish sealing ourselves in this wooden prison while everyone we know is out there living? I walk over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. It's tense, unyielding. I asked for sons. I begin, my voice dropping low. God gave me you 3, Shem, Japheth, and you, Ham, my defiant, passionate boy. I need you. Your mother needs you. Stand with me, please. Stand with your family. He looks at me then, his eyes filled with a storm of conflict. He's torn between the world he knows and the father he loves, even if he doesn't understand. Mara, bless her heart, gently takes his arm. Come on, Ham, she whispers, her voice a soft beacon in the growing tension. Let's go. We don't have to stay here. She tries to lead him away, back towards the life he's clinging to, the life that's about to be washed away. He takes a step with her, then another. My heart sinks. I watch him start to walk away from the ark, away from us. Is this it? Is this how we part? But then he stops. His body goes rigid. He looks up at the sky, a sudden primal fear flashing across his face. He's felt it. The change in the air, the pressure drop, the world holding its breath. In that single, terrifying moment, the choice is made. Not by logic, not by love, but by raw, gut-wrenching fear. He wrenches his arm from Mara's grasp and sprints, not away, but towards the ark, scrambling up the ramp without a backward glance. And then it happens. The sky, once a blanket of stars, tears open, not with a rumble, but with a deafening, ripping sound, as if the very fabric of the heavens is being torn apart. A bolt of lightning, thicker than any tree, strikes the ground nearby, incinerating a watcher in a flash of blinding white light. The remaining stone giants, our protectors, cry out in a chorus of grinding rock and panic, and they flee, their heavy footfalls shaking the very foundations of the earth. Then comes the rain. It's not a drizzle, not a shower. It's a solid wall of water, falling with such force it kicks up mud and stone from the ground. It's hard, angry, relentless. Chaos erupts in the city. Screams echo on the wind, quickly swallowed by the roar of the downpour. Inside the ark, it's a symphony of panic. The animals who had been settled are now awake, restless. The apes are screaming, the lions roaring, the birds beating their wings against their enclosures. Their wild instincts are screaming danger, and they are trapped. The whole massive structure groans and shifts around us, a wooden heart beating with the terror of 1,000 creatures. Shem and Japheth rush to secure the final doors, their faces pale but determined. Elah and Nami are trying to soothe the animals, their voices lost in the cacophony. And Ham Ham is pressed against the inside wall of the ark, his knuckles white, staring at the sliver of the outside world he can still see. He's with us. He chose the ark. But as the water begins to rise, I look at his face and wonder if he'll ever forgive himself or me for it. The journey has begun. For 40 days and 40 nights the rain fell, and now there's only water. In the vast, silent expanse, a single giraffe's head bobs on the surface, a heartbreaking reminder of all that was lost. And then it, too, sinks beneath the waves, leaving nothing but the ark, a tiny vessel of life adrift in a sea of death. This is the world of Noah and his family, 150 days after the flood began. This isn't the children's story you remember, with smiling animals peeking from a cheerful boat. This is a story of survival, of faith pushed to its absolute limit, and of a family trapped in a floating prison, wrestling with the weight of being the last humans on earth. Inside the ark, the reality is far from serene. The air is thick with the stench of thousands of animals. The noise is a constant, deafening cacophony, the cries, roars, and squawks of a world crammed into a single wooden hull. The initial relief of survival has long since faded, replaced by the grinding reality of their confinement. Every day is the same. Feed the animals, clean the filth, and try not to go mad from the claustrophobia. Tensions within the family are stretched to the breaking point. Ham, Noah's second son, is consumed by a bitter resentment. He looks at his father and sees not a savior, but the man who stood by while the world drowned. "You watched them die," he'd snarl, his words dripping with accusation. "You heard their screams, and you did nothing. Was this really God's will, or was it your pride?" His anger is a poison seeping into the already strained atmosphere of the ark. His wife, Mara, shares his bitterness, though hers is a quieter, more desperate sorrow. She wasn't born into Noah's family. She married into this fate. She resents being trapped, her future stolen and replaced with this endless, rocking nightmare. She looks out at the boundless water and sees not a promise of a new beginning, but the grave of her old life. She feels like a prisoner, not a survivor, and her silent suffering is a heavy weight on everyone's shoulders. Shem, the eldest son, desperately tries to hold the fractured family together. He is the mediator, the peacemaker, constantly stepping between Ham's rage and Noah's weary silence. "We must have faith," he pleads, but his words start to sound hollow, even to himself. He works tirelessly, his hands raw, his body aching, trying to maintain some semblance of order, some sliver of hope. But with each passing day, he feels the threads of their unity unraveling further. The youngest, Japheth, is a gentle soul, and the immense stress begins to take a physical toll. He grows pale and weak, a constant worrying cough racking his small frame. The stale air, the poor food, and the overwhelming psychological pressure are crushing him. His sickness is a stark physical manifestation of the decay that is creeping into every corner of their lives. Seeing him suffer adds another layer of fear and guilt for the rest of the family. The chaos isn't limited to the humans. The animals, once coexisting in a divinely inspired truce, are starting to revert to their primal instincts. The delicate balance is shattering. A low growl from a leopard, a panicked bleat from a nearby sheep. The scent of blood is in the air as predators begin to eye their prey. Noah and his sons are forced to work frantically, building new partitions, separating the hunters from the hunted, turning the ark into an even more complex maze of cages and fear. The promise of peace is eroding, even among the creatures they were meant to save. Resources are dwindling at an alarming rate. The mountains of grain and dried fruit are shrinking into small, precious piles. They begin rationing, each meal a stark reminder of their uncertain future. How long can this last? How long until the food runs out completely? To make matters worse, the ark itself is beginning to fail. Water, dark and cold, starts seeping through the gopher wood planks. The constant drip, drip is a maddening soundtrack to their despair, a constant reminder that the very vessel meant to save them could become their tomb. Morale hits rock bottom. Hope, once a blazing fire, is now a flickering ember, threatening to be extinguished by the suffocating darkness. The weight of it all becomes too much, even for Noah. The prophet, the chosen one, the man who spoke with God, begins to break. In the dead of night, his wife Naamah finds him alone. Deep in the belly of the ark, his face buried in his hands. He's praying, but his prayer is not one of praise. It's a whisper of pure, unadulterated doubt. What if I was wrong? He chokes out, his voice cracking. What if I heard my own pride, my own madness, and not your voice? I've led my family into this floating grave. I have damned them all. The patriarch, the rock of their family, has crumbled. Naamah, who has been his steadfast partner through everything, kneels beside him. She takes his trembling hands in hers. She doesn't offer easy platitudes or empty reassurances. She looks into his eyes, her own filled with a fierce, quiet strength. Noah, she says, her voice a firm anchor in his sea of doubt. Faith was never about being certain. If we knew the outcome, it wouldn't be faith. It's about trust. Trusting in the promise, even when we are surrounded by darkness. Trusting in the journey, even when we can't see the shore. We are still here. We are still breathing. That has to be enough. Her words are a lifeline, pulling him back from the edge of despair. And then it happens. As if the ocean itself is testing their last shred of resolve, a wave of impossible size rises from the deep. It's a moving mountain of black water, a liquid wall that blots out the sky. It hangs over them for a terrifying, silent moment before it crashes down upon the ark with the force of a collapsing world. The sound is apocalyptic. Wood screams and splinters. The entire structure groans, twisted by the immense pressure. They are thrown into chaos, tumbling through the darkness as the ark is tossed sideways, threatening to capsize, to be shattered into a million pieces. Everyone panics. Animals shriek. People cry out, thinking this is the end. This is the moment their fragile hope is finally extinguished. But then the groaning stops. The vessel, battered and broken, slowly, miraculously, rights itself. It holds. The ark holds. In the stunned silence that follows, they lie bruised and breathless, listening to the creak of the wood. They survived. In that moment of shared terror and miraculous survival, something shifts. The bickering, the doubt, the resentment, it all fades away, replaced by a raw, profound realization. They are still alive. Against all odds, they are still afloat. The ark, their prison and their salvation, has held. And perhaps, just perhaps, so will they. The ark floats on a boundless ocean. For months it has been a world unto itself, a refuge tossed upon the waters. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of hay, animals, and anxious hope. A single beam of golden sunlight now pierces the heavy clouds, a long-awaited spear of light. The great vessel which has groaned and creaked through the storm is suddenly, strangely still. Noah stands at a high window, his face weathered by worry and time. He opens the latch, and the air that rushes in is different. It's clean, crisp, and new. He releases a raven, a speck of black against the gray sky. It flies, circles once, and disappears over the horizon, never to return. A sign, perhaps. But Noah needs certainty. He waits. 7 days pass in silent anticipation. The stillness of the water is a strange comfort after the chaos of the flood. Noah takes a dove, its feathers as white as fresh snow. He whispers a prayer and releases it into the vast, quiet world. The family watches it shrink into the distance. Hours later, a flutter of wings is heard. The dove returns, and in its beak it carries a small, tender olive leaf, glistening with moisture. A collective gasp fills the ark. Tears stream down the faces of Noah's wife, his sons, and their wives. It's a simple leaf, yet it is everything. It is life, it is hope. It is proof that the earth has been reborn. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, they unbar the great door. The heavy wood groans open, and a wave of brilliant, clean light floods the interior, blinding them for a moment. As their eyes adjust, they witness a miracle. The world is washed clean. Gone is the corruption, the noise, the chaos. In its place is a landscape of vibrant green, shining under the sun, a world baptized and made new. The ground is soft. The air smells of wet earth and fresh beginnings. This is the dawn of a new age. With a gentle command from Noah, the ramp is lowered. And then the great exodus begins. A river of life pours out from the ark. Pairs of lions, their manes magnificent in the sunlight. Towering elephants, their steps surprisingly gentle. Graceful giraffes, their heads high among the new trees. Birds of every color burst into the sky, filling the air with a symphony of song. The world once silenced by the deluge is alive with sound and movement. The animals, once confined, are now free to reclaim the earth, spreading out across the plains and into the forests. At the foot of the mountain where the ark has come to rest, Noah gathers stones. With the help of his sons, he builds an altar. It isn't grand, but it is built with hands full of gratitude. Here, under the open sky, he gives thanks. Thanks for their survival, for the promise held in that single olive leaf, and for the chance to begin again. It is a moment of profound, humble worship. A family united in their awe and reverence for the power that is both taken and given. As the smoke from the offering ascends, a voice seems to fill the very air around them, a voice that is not heard with the ears but felt in the soul. It is the voice of God, a promise echoing across the renewed creation. Never again, it booms, a covenant of mercy. Never again will I curse the ground because of humanity. Never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. And then, as if to seal this divine promise, the sky puts on a display of breathtaking beauty. A magnificent rainbow, a perfect arc of vibrant color, stretches from one end of the horizon to the other. It is a bridge of light connecting the heavens and the earth, a visible sign of God's unbreakable vow. The family looks on, their faces upturned, bathed in the rainbow's glow. Words fail them. There is only a shared sense of wonder and overwhelming peace. This is more than just the end of a storm. It is the beginning of a new relationship between God and humanity, one founded on grace. Behind them the great ark sits half buried in the soft earth, a silent monument to the world that was. It has served its purpose. It is a relic of a past now washed away. Noah turns from the altar, his gaze fixed on the horizon, toward the land that awaits them. He takes his wife's hand. His sons and their families gather close. Together they take their first steps forward. They are not walking back to a home they remember, but forward, into a future they must build. They walk away from the ark, leaving the past behind, and step into the unarmed, with a promise and a rainbow in the sky. Thank you so much for journeying with us through this incredible story. If these tales of faith and history inspire you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We appreciate your support more than words can say. See you next time.